Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. Stephen Morris here with Advisory. Today we're going to be talking about CFOs or Chief Financial Officers and how you as a small to mid-sized business owner may be considering hiring one or more importantly, maybe considering hiring a part-time CFO. And let's talk about the reasons why you might want to consider it and at what point in your business is it a good idea to hire a part-time CFO to help you grow and expand to that next level. Okay, so what is a CFO? Chief Financial Officer. You're looking for your number two person who will handle all the finance, all the accounting, all the compliance. They typically are responsible for all the financial operations in your business. And as your business starts to grow, you'll find that you're going to have somebody dedicated full-time to it so that you as the CEO can focus on expanding revenue streams, coming up with new market ideas, and generally being the spokesperson and the face of your business. You'll also probably find that as the business owner, you just don't have the time to keep up with all the rules around compliance, especially here in California, where we have a lot of rules around what it takes to run a business from both a tax and legal and compliance perspective. And you as the business owner just don't have the time in order to address all those issues, and you're gonna need to outsource that to somebody who can spend their full time doing it. So what does that look like? Well, the first is you can simply hire a CFO, and those might cost you north of $200,000, $300,000 a year to do it. That might be cost prohibitive for your business at the time you kind of need to make that transition. And that's why a part-time CFO, somebody who has that skill set but can run this type of skill set for multiple businesses, would generally be more cost effective. So what do they do, or what are some trigger points that you might need to consider in order to hire a part-time CFO? So the first sign that you might need CFO kind of help in your business is going to depend on what your revenue streams look like. The more complex they get, the harder they are going to be to manage, and therefore you might need somebody in there to help you track them. What does that mean? Well, you might be considering expanding or moving your direction in a certain business, and you need metrics around that in order to understand whether or not the investments you're making in certain areas are paying off. For example, you might have a business that sells stuff, and it also provides a certain level of services, and on top of that, it also generates income from content. And when you're looking at whether or not you should invest more time in, let's say, the content area or perhaps the selling of things, you're going to have to look at how profitable those particular income streams are, how much time it takes you to generate that income, what are the costs involved, what's the risk. And once you understand those concepts, you can decide to devote your activity in a certain area and continue to build on it. Well, the thing we've always learned here as business owners is that the only things that can be improved are things that can be measured. And so a CFO or somebody who can just sit there and track the numbers would help you measure the outcomes or measure the results and give you the information you need to make an important business decision. So for example, you might be looking at costs around content. How many people does it take to hire? What's involved? What's the time required by the CEO? And so on and so forth. And a competent part-time CFO would be able to crunch those numbers for you and say, hey, based on what you're doing here, you're generating X revenue, it's costing you Y, and that's actually better than these other two streams. This might be an important area for you to consider investing in. This is great information for you to consider as you're growing your business. The next area you might want to consider having a CFO is when you start to bring on a lot more employees. So what does that mean? Well, you're usually going to be doing every single role when you start off with your business. Then you hire one person, and you might put that person on payroll. Then you hire two, and the next thing you know, you have a remote employee in Nevada, and you got another one in Wisconsin, and you have two more in Florida. And running the payroll for all those employees and tracking their hours and making sure that you're compliant with all the rules and you have workers' compensation. Honestly, it's just too many tasks for you to maintain. A part-time CFO who is familiar with compliance and knows how to work with the proper payroll companies in order to help you manage all these particular compliance concerns is going to be an absolute lifesaver, especially if down the road one of those agencies comes knocking and saying, hey, you didn't properly file forms with us, you didn't classify your employees correctly, or you just don't have the proper workers' compensation in place, we're going to fine the heck out of you. So a CFO would help you be able to sleep at night knowing that those particular activities are covered and that somebody is responsible for those type of employment considerations and compliance efforts. The next area you might want to consider having a part-time CFO is when you have multiple business owners, multiple partners, multiple shareholders, and you need to manage cash flow and handle distributions. If the deal structure is complex, for example, you have some partners who get back all their money first, and then afterwards they get a certain return over X amount of dollars, while the original shareholders might only see a pickup on income once they've achieved certain financial goals. Being able to run those calculations in compliance with your ownership agreements is going to be crucial to ensure that everybody gets exactly what the deal called out for. And a good part-time CFO is someone who will be able to get there and run a particular cash flow model to model out what dividends, what distributions would look like to the investors based on the deal that you cut with them at the time. Finally, the last area is, of course, tax. Income taxation, local tax, state tax, city tax, property tax. Gosh, there's a million forms of taxation out there, and a CFO should competently be able to help you manage, not necessarily do all the tax returns, but they might have the right people in place. They might manage those relationships, certain vendors handling, for example, property taxes in various states, personal property taxes, real property taxes. They might be working hand in hand with income tax firms, such as ourselves, where we'll be able to advise them on what the tax outcomes would be, and they would push different scenarios at us in order to try to help save the owner money, which is another fantastic value. They're involved in the business, they know the numbers very well, and therefore they can guide these discussions in a way that perhaps the owner is just not as focused on or able to handle at the time. So I get this question a lot. Well, I don't need a part-time CFO because I have a bookkeeper already. What's the difference? Well, typically speaking, bookkeepers are responsible primarily for running things like payables. They might run payroll or simple payroll for a few employees, and of course they're handling all the books and records for the business. Typically speaking, bookkeepers do not have the same skill set as a part-time CFO because they're not aware of certain high-level compliance, they're not familiar with cash flow forecasting, they're not familiar with general financial and business concepts that typically a part-time CFO would see as they're running multiple businesses. And they generally have a lot of experience in these businesses because they've worked in the past in private industry, they might have been public accountants themselves, and so they have a lot of insight in how the best ways to do things are. So overall, the value of having a part-time CFO is it improves clarity, it'll streamline your operations, you'll have better peace of mind knowing that all your compliance considerations are being taken care of, and generally speaking, they should be someone that you're leaning on for support and information gathering as you continue to navigate the business realm. My experience has always been that we never know what's coming next, and we're always pivoting from one thing to the next, and a part-time CFO at least will help us get the information to make the best decision at the time that we believe would be most beneficial and most profitable for our businesses. So when is the exact perfect time to hire a part-time CFO? Well, that's a tough question to answer. It's really going to depend on your business. If you're in a startup business and you're going out there and you're raising capital, you've got 100 different investors involved, and you have employees in multiple states and you're pre-revenue, you probably need one because you've got a lot of compliance to deal with, you have a lot of rules to keep track of. CFO is absolutely going to be necessary in that scenario. Alternatively, you might be making just so much money that you just don't have the time to sit there and actually run all the compliance anymore. Your time would be better spent going out there and pursuing new business opportunities. That would probably be the best time for a part-time CFO. Or alternatively, you're considering growing the business and you're just looking for somebody who you could bounce ideas off of, who can kind of be your assistant in helping you grow the business in ways that perhaps you weren't thinking of because you're not financially minded as much as someone like a part-time CFO would be. That might be another great opportunity to bring one on, even if it's just to help on limited advisory roles, for example, like running certain areas of your business or gathering information for yourself. And over time, you can continue to grow the relationship and expand the responsibility of this part-time CFO in order to help you out with other areas of your business as you continue to expand it. So in short, I hope this video helps you understand what the value is of a part-time CFO and why it might be beneficial for your business to bring one on at certain points and to help you grow and expand your business in ways that perhaps you wouldn't even be able to conceive of at the time. So I hope this really helps out a lot, and if you have any questions or comments or you're considering expanding your business through part-time CFO help, then please feel free to contact us here. I'll be more than happy to assist you. Thanks so much for watching. So make sure to like and subscribe to our channel for all the content related to real estate investment and tax saving strategies.